here on the Raiders Report, let's look at some of these Pete Carroll quarterback rumors, because when I heard what our new head coach had to say at his press conference, I had two big thoughts. First thought was this: what exactly is going to happen with Gardner Minshew and Aidan O'Connell? I'll give you a prediction on that. And then it made me think bridge quarterback vibes. So who are the top 5 quarterbacks to be the bridge quarterback for the Silver and Black next season? All of that coming up here on today's show. If you missed the latest around Carroll and these quarterback rumors, though, he talked a lot about them yesterday at the press conference. And Pete was the one that was given a lot more questions compared to the GM, John Spytek. But he said, quote, "Our mission to build this football team around the quarterback position." And typically, new regimes usually means you're going to bring in a new quarterback, especially when your quarterback is Aidan O'Connell, who's a backup and doesn't have any long-term money tied to him. If you missed the exact quote from Pete, this is what he had to say. "It is our mission to build this football team up around the quarterback position. This isn't the only spot. We happen to have the greatest of all time to help us, and to see clearly, we were going to lean on Tom as much as possible. Can he give us the insights? Because nobody has the insight that he has. He's that unique. But the quarterback position is one of the positions on the team, and we've got to make it a fit together well." So when you look at what Pete said, when you look at what the Raiders have done, they moved on from Antonio Pierce because that's one of the things Tom Brady wanted to do. Moved on from Tom Telesco, that was one of the things Tom Brady wanted to do. Everything that the Raiders are preaching right now tells me that a new quarterback is going to be coming in and a new regime is going to be coming in, and all the old is going to be out. So when I hear that, I go, it's probably bad news for Aidan O'Connell. It's probably bad news for Gardner Minshew. So coming up, I'm going to give you my prediction of what the Raiders are going to do around Minshew and around AOC. And let's be real, we already kind of know what's going to happen here around Gardner Minshew. I think a lot of y'all are more or less just tuning in to see what my prediction is around AOC, because I've also said this. At $1.2 million, Aidan is a good backup quarterback in the league, and good NFL teams have good backups. And the fact that he has got 17 starts underneath his belt, 20 games played, you could do a lot worse at having a backup quarterback than Aidan O'Connell. But if you're wondering, Mitch, why the heck should I subscribe to the Raiders Report? We do free videos every single day. We are on pace right now for 739 hours of live content this year. That's a lot of time. We're also going to be doing a special live this Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Tune in. We'll Ventrack, get into Mount Raider more. And then interactive Raiders analysis. I can shout out Alex. I can shout out Javier. I can give a shout out to Rebel Montana. We do interactive shows all the time, but that's what makes this show different. It's a lot more than a show. It's a community. So let's talk about the first guy here. It's Gardner Minshew. My prediction is this: he's not returning. If the Raiders figure out a way to keep Minshew, then I'm going to go, what the hell are you doing, Tom? What the hell are you doing, Pete? What the hell are you doing, Spytek? Like, it doesn't make any sense to keep Gardner Minshew back, and the Raiders are going to move on from Guard Dog. His 2025 cap is $14 million. If a team were to trade for him, it's going to look somewhere around $11.8 million would be the new team. Here's the thing. Nobody's going to pay Gardner Minshew $11.8 million. When you look at the pre and you look at the post dead hits, I'll say it does make more sense for the Raiders to trade him after June 1st, but that's not going to happen. It's either going to be the Raiders trade him pre-June 1st, or they are going to cut him post-June 1st. And I say that because of the money that is saved. If you cut Minshew, if nobody trades for him, it doesn't really make sense to cut him pre, and you're going to eat 7.6, where you could do somewhat what the Raiders did last season with Jimmy Garoppolo. Reminder, you get 2 post-June 1st cut candidates. Minshew can be one of those. You save 9.3. That's the route that I think what's going to happen. So if I had to say, Mitch, what's my prediction on Minshew? The percentage chance of him being on the Raiders, it's a big old fat 0. Cut by the Raiders, I'll say 90%. I might even want to make this 95%. And then traded is 10. I would say really maybe the only teams that would even entertain the idea is somebody that has worked with Minshew in the past. Maybe somebody like the Indianapolis Colts, where he was a Pro Bowler just in 2023, and they go, you know what? We need a backup quarterback. That's somebody that I would trade for. But 100% not going to be on the Raiders. In terms of Aidan O'Connell, he's got a cap hit of $1.2 million. If he's traded, the Raiders save $903K. They eat only $255. So at the end of the day, trading's not going to make any sense for financial reasons. You either trade Aidan or you don't, and you do it for the player. You don't do it to save money. You don't do it for any reason besides that. He does have 2 years left on his rookie contract, and I would say that an NFL team out there would look at that and go, he has started in 17 games. He's played in 20 games. He's worked under tons of different coaches, tons of different quarterback coaches, tons of different OCs, and because he's got 2 years left, I could see a team going, you know what? That's a quarterback that I would potentially trade for, and quite frankly, I don't know if Aidan's going to be back on the team next season. So how about this question? Give me a yes, give me a no. This will be the pinned comment here on today's episode. Will AOC be on the Raiders next season? My answer is going to be after this YouTube ad break. I'll simply say that I believe that Aidan is a 50-50 coin flip to be on this roster. I do believe that the Raiders will try to trade him this offseason to get value because he's too good to be a quarterback 3. Good enough to be a QB 2. And when I think what the Raiders are going to do is they are looking at bridge quarterback. Aidan's already a bridge, so it doesn't make sense to have 2 bridges. It makes sense to have 1 bridge and then have another quarterback learning underneath Russell Wilson, maybe learning underneath the Kirk Cousins, learning underneath whoever journeyman quarterback they could bring in. But they are going to add an upgrade. And no disrespect to Aidan, they are going to add one of those upgrades in free agency or it being the draft. So if you know Aidan's not going to be that QB2, you could then ship him off. To me, there are many teams that would show interest. And when I say many, again, he is a good backup quarterback, and that is an important role in the NFL. The teams that are the most likely to do it, to me, are the Miami Dolphins and the Patriots. Josh McDaniels, he was a part of the regime that drafted Aidan here. He's now in New England, and they need a backup quarterback there for Drake May. The Miami Dolphins, this is another team that has been kind of shot in the foot, not having a reliable backup for Tua. The Titans have Bo Hardigree right now. We'll kind of see how that works out. The Seahawks, maybe the Raiders trade Aidan there. You get Geno Smith in a swap. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just because of, again, the connections we have, and Aidan could be a good backup to Baker Mayfield. In terms of being on the team, I'm going to go 50% chance that he's on the Raiders, 50% chance that he's traded. The silver and black will not cut him. It does not make sense to cut Aidan because he's got way too much playing experience, and if you cut him, he's going to get swept up by another NFL team ASAP Rocky. So with all this being said, I believe that Pete Carroll is more than likely going to try to move on from Aidan in a trade. They are 100% going to move on from Gardner Minshew via cut or trade if anybody's dumb enough to trade for him. But then I see them going with a bridge quarterback. I see them adding somebody either in a trade or via free agency. And coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you the top 5 quarterbacks for Pete Carroll. Before we get into it, though, the big game, it's right around the corner, and PrizePicks is here for the nation. You can get $50 when you play $5, and you don't even need a win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. The big game is almost here, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. PrizePicks is also giving away a free pick for the big game where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win cash. I'll admit, taking anything for Patrick Mahomes on the more, it's tough to do. But at the same time, I'm here to put money in y'all's pocket. And if you're going to end up watching the big game anyway, you might as well put some money in your pocket. Take the more on Patrick Mahomes and then look at some other player for the Eagles. Maybe you could find Saquon Barkley touchdown, a Jalen Hurts rushing yards more or less. You can go a lot of different options. And I know that we are a nation and it stinks looking at the Mahomes and picking them more. But you're going to watch the game anyways. You might as well allow Mahomes to put some money in your pocket because I know that guy's already got enough money in his pocket. So one more time, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Those links are down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. So let's get into the top 5 quarterbacks here for Pete Carroll. And I'm going to do this segment probably multiple times on this show where I'll add more names, new reports will come out, and we're always going to do it a little bit differently, so just kind of keep that in mind. So the first name that I got coming up here at number 5, and they are ranked from 5 down to 1. The QB that's at number 1 is the dude that I believe is the most likely the Raiders add this offseason. Coming in here at number 5 is Kirk Cousins, and as it stands now, you would have to trade for him. Atlanta gave him a 4-year deal this offseason, but based on reports, based on the Falcons' actions, I believe that they're going to move on from Cousins, who did struggle a little bit this season, especially near the end of the year. He started off hot, but then started to struggle, threw for only 1 touchdown, 10 interceptions in his final 5 games, and really proved that Achilles wasn't 100% healthy. Though, I would look at what Spytek was able to do with somebody like Tom Brady, what Spytek was able to do with Baker Mayfield, and just overall how a lot of these quarterbacks that were journeymen, a lot of these dudes that were considered washed, were able to be brought in and could show, like, okay, we can get it done at the QB position. Because if you're the Raiders and you're trying to win right away, I'll admit, going out and getting Kirk Cousins, I ain't trading for Cousins. If he gets released, then you look at that option. And if you try to go out and get Kirk, you're probably looking at a deal somewhere in the 3 years to $75 million range, which might scare some people out there. But you also have to look at what Cousins was at the beginning and at the end. And these numbers here are not good. The first 9 games, Cousins looked like Kirk Cousins. The last 5 games, I mean, look at those numbers, y'all. And I don't think people realize how bad Kirk really truly was. He was unable to move. The team was unable to run the ball. He was unable to spread the ball. The arm strength was weak. I'm putting Cousins on this list because I could see the Raiders trying to take a chance on him because they see the name value and because they think, again, John Spytek, Tom Brady, they have a lot of confidence in themselves. But I'm being real with you. I would rather the Raiders keep Aidan O'Connell at $1.2 million and have him be the guy instead of you going out and giving Kirk Cousins a long-term deal, because Aidan at 1.2, I can make the argument, is way better than Kirk Cousins at $25 million per year. Let's go to number 4 here on the list, and this is going to be Justin Fields, who is a free agent this offseason. And Fields, to me, is if you're looking for a true one-year stopgap, best bang for your buck option, I believe Fields could be that guy. He's got ties to Champ Kelly. Champ Kelly was a part of the regime that drafted him in Chicago. And he can run, he can pass, he can do a lot of different things. And when I think about the style of offense that Pete Carroll ran with Russell Wilson earlier in the years, it was an offense that was predicated on running the football effectively, playing great defense, and just making sure that your quarterback didn't turn the ball over. Fields, to me, showed that when he was put in a similar system like that in Pittsburgh, he was able to win games. And I get it. He was benched for Russell Wilson, but you cannot deny the fact that this is one of the best rushers of the football. And I could see the Raiders trying to find a quarterback that maybe gives them a little bit of ability in terms of running the ball. It's not going to cost a lot. Spytek has them valued somewhere about 1 year. You're looking at maybe about $10 to $11 million per year. So if you're the Raiders, and let's say you don't love the quarterbacks in this year's draft, and you wanted to go out and add a Justin Fields on a 1-year deal, you keep Aidan O'Connell as your backup at $1.2 million, and then you go, okay, I don't love the quarterbacks this year, but I really like the quarterbacks in next year's draft, because I agree. I think the QBs in next year's draft could be a little bit better. So you could look at that option as just a 1-year rental, because if you're going to go out and get Fields, you're going to build that offensive line. You're going to do everything that you would have originally done compared to having a rookie quarterback. Let's go to number 3 here on the list. It's going to be Sam Darnold, who's coming off an incredible year with the Minnesota Vikings, but another free agent option. And the reason why I have Fields and Darnold ranked higher than Cousins is because Cousins at this current juncture is not a free agent. Darnold, though, was special. 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, but kind of like the Cousins argument, where started out great, and the final 2 games for Darnold are going to freak people out. However, look at Baker Mayfield. Look at what his career has turned into down there in Tampa Bay. And if you're the Raiders, that's what they're going to try to recreate here with Sam Darnold. I would say if you brought in Darnold, it would probably be a deal somewhere along the lines of 2, maybe 3 years, somewhere around $30 million per year. And you could tie that with somebody like a Pete Carroll, do a 2 to 3 year type of window. I know Sam Darnold scares people. I'm going to be real. Sam Darnold scares me too. But this is an organization and a regime that has shown that they can bring in quarterbacks and make them work. Speaking of which, one of those quarterbacks that Pete Carroll was able to bring in and make it work was Geno Smith. Smith was a product that everybody thought was done. was going to be a bust from the New York Jets, wasn't going to be able to make it, and then all of a sudden, Pete Carroll showed that he believed. Carroll put him in the right system, put him in the right offense, put him in the right culture, and put players around him that gave him the best ability. In 2022, he had 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Did take a little bit of a year step back in 2023, but also lost his offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron in 2024. There was a lot of different moving parts around for Geno, and I have Geno at number 2, not because I would be thrilled about bringing in Smith, but because he does have those clear ties to Pete Carroll. I mean, hell, when the Raiders hired Carroll, Smith went on his Instagram story, posted a picture of him and Pete. I'll admit this. When you look at the contract of Geno, I could see Seattle moving on from him. And when I say moving on from him, I mean cutting him. Because they save a lot more money by cutting him compared to actually keeping him on the roster. It's like a $13 million dead cap hit. So if you know that they're going to move on from him, the Raiders could be able to get him cheap. But he's the number 2 option. And I'll be real, number 1 seems pretty clear-cut right now. So how about this? If the Raiders sign or trade for a quarterback, who will it be? Not who you want it to be. If you were a betting man, you were to put your chips on the table, who's the quarterback that you think the Raiders would trade or sign? To me, the answer is this. It's Russell Wilson. And it's Russell Wilson because timing is everything in the NFL, and the amount of rumors that started popping up when the Raiders hired Pete Carroll. It was Russell Wilson this, Russell Wilson that. Wilson also has come out and said that him and Pete are good now. They were able to mend that relationship. Wilson was on a podcast saying when Carroll was let go by the Seahawks, he went out there and met him. I know Russell has been not a fan favorite of the Raiders, but we also got to be able to give him his credit of we need somebody that can come in and take a cheap deal at the quarterback position. Wilson played at $1.2 million. I know that he was also making a boatload of money, technically $40 million from Denver, but he still was able to take less money, and he proved that he was willing to do it. Wilson also back in 2023, or 2024 technically, that offseason, wanted to be a Raider. Like Russell Wilson wanted to be a Raider. So when you have the ties to Pete Carroll, and then you look at what John Spytek was able to do with Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield, and then the fact that Russell wanted to be a Raider before, and the fact that Russell is willing to potentially play on a cheaper deal in order to win a championship ring, because Wilson wants to be looked at as Tom Brady. He has mentioned himself as legacy is the most important thing. If Russell wants to seal a legacy, and he wants to prove that he's even that dude even more, winning the AFC West is a hell of a way to do it. So here are my Pete Carroll quarterback rankings for the Raiders if they try to trade or sign somebody this offseason. If you want to take a screenshot, please do so. If there's any names that I forgot, you can yell at me. You can let me know on Instagram and Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365.